Good morning, YouTube. Well, it's been a couple of days since I had the custom axle back system fabricated and installed on the old Q50. So I wanted to get back on and make a quick video giving kind of a final review or a review up to this point of how I feel like the vehicle is performing, how the exhaust system itself actually sounds, some of the things that I like about it in addition, and some of the things that I'm a little, I don't want to say disappointed in, but a couple of things that I don't really like about the system. And it's not anything to do with performance or how it sounds, it's more of how to do the technician actually fabricated the system itself. So we'll touch on a couple of those things, and I'll give you a peek at what the system looks like, or what the axle back system looks like underneath the car. So hopefully you enjoy. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned. So the other part of the tone that I really like is the fact that it is not super crazy or annoyingly loud inside the car when you're cruising down the highway. It has a nice subtle tone, and actually at cruising speeds I found at about 2,000 RPMs or just below, when you're at highway speed, the car's almost silent, but you can sure hear it when you put your foot into the gas a little bit, which I really like. So it goes from a very subtle, quiet cruiser to a pretty aggressive growl, I guess you would say, or even a scream at higher RPMs when you really get into it. So that's awesome. So far, I really like the new axle back system. Again, it's custom made by a local shop. First thing I like, it has a really nice smooth idle. It sounds strong, but it's not overwhelming. As far as drone goes, that everyone talks about when getting these muffler delete systems for the Q50, I haven't noticed it, and I can tell you why in just a little bit. But as far as drone goes, there are very few instances when you get a little hint of a drone. One of them is when you're just accelerating from a stop sign or a stop light, and you get up around that 2,000 to 2,500 RPM just before it shifts on its own. You get a slight drone in the cabin, but it goes away immediately after it shifts, or if you let off the gas. The only other drone that I've noticed is if you're, again, accelerating on the interstate, and you get right at 3,000 RPM, it just hits it for a second, but again, it's going to shift past that, or you let off the gas and get to a more cruising type speed, the drone totally goes away. And that's maybe different with the Remark system, but with my particular setup, drone is basically non-existent. Like I said, cruising down the highway, the car seems to be almost silent. And again, the only time I really notice a drone is if you're accelerating from a stoplight and it hits that 22 to 2,300 RPM range just before it shifts anyway. So not bad at all. Super happy with that. Now let's talk a little bit about why I don't think, or let's talk why there is no drone in my particular setup compared to something like a Remark. I also love that it has a super nice rev both outside of the car and when you're in the car with the windows rolled up. Sounds real good. Check it out. So the question is, how did I get away with installing a muffler delete or a straight pipe system and avoid the dreaded drone? My explanation is related to the diameter of pipe that I chose to create the system with. Most everyone watching will know that the muffler delete system's on the market for the Q50, and in general it seems like aftermarket exhaust systems go to a 2.5-inch diameter exhaust pipe. That really changes the airflow and therefore changes the sound wave frequency that travels through your exhaust system, which creates that drone at certain RPMs. So what I chose to do, because my thinking was that it was the diameter of pipe that had more of an impact on the drone rather than the setup itself. So what I chose to do was go with a 2-inch diameter exhaust pipe. I was a little hesitant because I was worried about the tone that the car would create. I wanted it to be throaty and muscular, and not kind of high pitched and raspy. So I was a little bit nervous, a little apprehensive, but I chose to go with the 2-inch pipe. I believe the stock exhaust system might even be 1 3/4 inches, super restrictive. So not a big difference, but it allowed the pipe to slide over the portion that we cut off. So in doing that, the overall frequency of the exhaust sound wave wasn't changed all that much. And to my surprise and to my pleasure, the exhaust note is still very aggressive. It sounds really good at idle. It sounds excellent at acceleration. So very pleased with that. Now, the other thing people talk about when increasing the diameter of their exhaust pipe and putting these systems on is what happens to the performance of the vehicle overall. Most of the reviews and most of the things that I've read online mentions that going with a muffler delete system, the Remark system specifically, is that everyone notices a drop in low end torque. They're all saying that they're willing to sacrifice a little bit of torque for a nice sounding setup. I preferred not to sacrifice any torque, and I was hoping that choosing this smaller diameter pipe would help that. As you all know, it's related to back pressure. When we have these massively restrictive, huge suitcase mufflers in the back ends of these cars, it really restricts the flow of your exhaust gases, and therefore creating a lot of back pressure. Now, the vehicles are tuned and set up from the factory to handle that type of back pressure, and the performance numbers are set, based on the system overall. So when you mess with that system, that's when you see the changes. So fortunately, choosing that 2-inch diameter pipe, again, it maintained some of that back pressure. And I'll mention too that the bends that this technician made in this pipe were not as free flowing as the aftermarket systems. So I have a feeling that helped to further maintain the stock back pressure numbers, and therefore I really, thankfully, have not lost any performance out of this vehicle after installing this system, which is awesome. I'm super happy about it. Not that these vehicles are super torquey and super powerful anyway, but again, leaving the stoplights, at low RPMs, I feel no difference whatsoever. I'm not saying I felt an increase in torque or an increase in power, but I certainly didn't feel a decrease. So I'm very pleased with that. So overall, very happy with this system. Again, the things that I am disappointed with is the artistry, how the system looks underneath the car, and it's just simply due to how the technician put it together. Now, again, I was not allowed back in the shop, and I wasn't close enough to be able to keep an eye on what was going on, what was happening. I told him what I wanted. I told him how I wanted it to look. He took some of it, and he let the rest of it go. So I have to say, when I saw it, I kind of shook my head and whatever, but my wife was sick, not feeling well. I'd already sat there for about an hour and a half. I had a lot of other things to do that afternoon. So rather than make a scene and make him take it apart and redo it, I figured just let it be. It sounds good. I can deal with it. And let me show you what I mean. So first of all, I wanted to retain the stock tips, which I did. But I wanted him to cut the pipe close to the tip itself, which he did not. He cut it back to where it went into the muffler and began his bends there. Not so bad, and I guess it made it easy and a little bit less pipe to use, but it doesn't look as clean as I wanted it to. The other thing you'll notice is that one side is lower than the other. The tip is straight, but it was tilted at an angle, and it's sagging just a little bit lower than the other side, which is unfortunate. This side is nice and clean, nicely bent. This side is not. So my resolution for that, black paint. We're going to paint the exhaust system. We'll do that today. It'll make it less noticeable compared to the shadow underneath the car, and also the black bumper, which is very shiny. I like it. And then you can see the bends are a little more restrictive than what the remark systems are, or the other aftermarket systems are. But that's what's retaining the back pressure. Overall, it has very little impact on performance, so I'm happy with it. Again, what we chose to do is cut it off at the flange. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to put the stock muffler back on at any time. It's not going to work out. He didn't have flanges, and I couldn't get flanges in time to do it. Overall, the welds are pretty nice. I'm pleased with that. The pipe is clean, stainless. Again, I'm happy overall. I just wish it'd look a little bit cleaner under here. But it only cost me $100. It was done in about an hour and a half. It's way better than waiting 3 months and spending $300. So can't complain. Now let's go make it look a little better.